All right, let's continue on. So now we're going to validate the height text box contents. There's two checks we have to make. We have to check for non-numeric input, and we have to check for out of range input. I've already written it, so I mean I can make it nice and small, but then it's going to be very hard for you to see that. Can you read that okay? All right, then I'll leave the whole thing up there, just like that. I'll give you a few minutes to put that in, and then we'll go over it. You can copy it if you want then to the one for weight and just change the H and heights to W's for weight. Again, when you're done, grab the entire thing, copy it, and put it in the comment below for weight. Change all the H's and heights to W's for weight. And then you've got that one done too. I don't know about the rest of you, but I found out a couple interesting things yesterday. First, if you didn't hear it, Facebook is putting out a brand new program for kids. It's called Facebook Messenger. It's designed for 6 to 10-year-olds so that they can FaceTime or the equivalent of FaceTime with friends and talk with friends, etc. They had it on the news last night. They had an Insta poll down below it. Would you let your kids use this? And it was 25% yes, 75% no, which I thought was funny. Second, speaking of Facebook, just so you hear this, it's amazing the effect that it has because I've been waiting for this product. I'm trying to learn to play guitar. I've only been trying to learn for 60 years. But I'm trying to learn, and I bought this software for it, which I even paid close to 90 bucks for because I was part of the startup, and now it retails for 200 bucks, so that's why I got it cheaper. But they keep sending out these messages that everybody who uses it loves it, but they never sent it to me. So yesterday I found their Facebook page, and I put this thing where I used a lot of capital letters and the like, and said, isn't it nice when you can give 89 bucks to something and 7 months later you get nothing in capital letters? I would like something in capital letters. 5 minutes later, I had a thing from their technical support saying they were very sorry and it would be sent to me no later than the end of next week. They don't know what the glitch was. Where's that? No, it shouldn't. No, that should say height. Thank you. And I won't lie to you, I did that right before break and did a bunch of copy and paste. And I didn't check it. Thank you. So height, that looks good. You all knew that, right? So as far as if I want to check, so if I want to see everywhere ret val is being used, I can double click on the word. And now it shows me every place. It even shows me the ones up above. And if I double click on height, now I can make sure height, etc. So it looks like, thank you. It looks like that's all correct now.
I was going to ask, why aren't you assigning variables to the ret
Right here, that would have been better to do that.
They don't have to?
Well, the question was right here, I left the var off of here. Do you have to do that? The answer is no. All right. Now, one thing about doing that, you could even make a case to say, hey, you used ret val in two functions. Why don't you just make it global? Because those are the only two functions that I'm using it in. Actually, that's probably not true. I'm probably using it in all four. So you could make a case and say I should have just made it global. Then all I have to do would be to set it like that. But, because I want to answer your question, if you don't use the word var right there, if you leave it off, then it becomes a global variable. So that's not recommended, so I'm glad you saw that. Did I use it up above? That should have been a var there too.
So even if it's defined locally, it's still become global?
Yes. So you should really have var ret val before all of those. In all four of these, so var ret val for validate first name, var ret val for validate last name, var ret val for validate height, and in just a minute when we do the weight, var ret val for validate weight. It's just considered much cleaner way of doing it. I'm going to grab everything that's in there, copy it to the clipboard, paste it in. W, 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 W. Does everybody have this one? Yes? No? What? Again, if you have finished it, copy it and drop it right underneath the next comment. Change all the heights to weights and the max heights to max weights, the min heights to min weights. What's that? You got it? Okay. So again, here's the validate weight. Like I said, I think personally you're silly if you don't just copy the earlier one. remember to make sure that all of the H's that you had in there for height were changed to W's for weight. Change them and then double click on there and look every place to make sure it looks correct. Also check your min weight and your max weight. See already I've got an error there. I've got min HW. Does everybody have this one done? Yes? Okay. So, I have a question for you. We're going to do the one that does the BMI. That's fine. But once we do that, not a joke, we've got the BMI, right? So since we have the BMI, what can we also look for in here? We've got the BMI. Every time we call this, we'll have a BMI. So can't we look for the smallest BMI now and the largest BMI? Might as well do that right here. So I'm going to put another comment. I'm going to add to my comments here that says also set smallest BMI and largest BMI in this routine. Okay? So, please look up on the screen here for a second. Rather than typing, just look up on the screen. So, whoops. With what we're doing here, we've now done all of these. Does that make sense? We've done all those now. All right? And if it's valid, now we want to call this. So we have to pass it the height and the weight, correct? So we will need those two parameters in here. All right? And I'm going to make it easy on myself. I'm just going to call it H and W for height and weight. This is not a big routine. It's got about 7 or 8 lines in it. That's it. That's the whole routine right there. I guess I could make that one bigger so you can see it okay. Yeah, this is supposed. Oh, down here. Yeah, you're right. Very good. Yeah, if you want the right answer, you were correct. Everybody hear that? There was a mistake here. That one should say largest. I think when I had done it originally, it said smallest there, so make sure largest, largest, smallest, smallest, less than smallest, greater than largest. Does everybody have that? Anybody still typing? It's okay. I just want to make sure before I go on. All right, you've all got it? Okay. So, next we want to figure out the BMI status. All right? You've already been given that chart. It's on here too. That says underweight is a BMI less than 18.5, which we called in our program uh, max under. All right? Optimal weight is between 18.5 and less than 25, which we called min over. Overweight is between 25 and less than 30, which we called min obese, and obese is greater than 30. All right? So we're into here. Now, I'm just going to return a string that either says underweight, optimal weight, overweight, or obese. Did everybody hear that? I'm just going to return a string that says that. So I made a variable that I called str for string. And I'm going to set it equal right now to the empty string. We also want to add one to our total number of underweight people. That's as small or big as I can make it to show the whole thing on there. We've literally got about 15 more lines to type in, and that's it. So we should be done with this ideally by 10 o'clock. Can you read that okay from back there? I mean, I can make it bigger, but then you won't be able to see all of it. So. So we're doing two things in here. We're setting the string to either underweight, optimal weight, overweight, or obese, and we're incrementing the appropriate counter. Does that make sense? So really, I don't know if I put it in here. But I really should have said here, it also increments the associated counter. All right. All right, so what's left? Well, this function should print out the total number of underweight, the total number of overweight, the total number of obese, the smallest BMI, and the largest BMI. And some of you lost points in here because all you did was you did an alert or you did the document.write. That's not what you were supposed to do. All right, you were supposed to use the one of the associated DOM methods. I used inner HTML, but you didn't have to. All right, and what I did was I built the string. So I created another variable that I called str, and I just built the string, and then I did a document.get element by. In fact, I didn't even have to do that. I could have just said the $sign. All right, equals string. So, in other words, this is another. In fact, let me make it bigger again, I guess. I called it display totals. Again, you can call it whatever you want. It's anonymous, so I need the semicolon at the end. All right. There's my total number of underweights. Want my total number of optimal weights, bless you. And that shouldn't be unker, should be under. So that'll print up the values of my counters, but I also need the largest and the smallest BMI. And if you look up on the screen, it would have been a nice idea to do a two fixed on here. Not that you had to, but it would have been a nice idea to do that. And somebody answer this question for me, please. This is the last line. I put in this. What can I do to make that smaller? Yep. That should work. That's the whole routine. We now have 7 more lines to do for the last function, and we're done. Now, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but if for some reason yours does not work after keying all this in, I'm not going to print out hard copies. Go and hit F12 and try to debug your way through it. So this is setting up a big string that's going to have my total number of underweights, followed by my total number of optimal weights, followed by my total number of overweights, followed by my total number of obese weights, followed by the smallest calculated BMI, followed by the largest calculated BMI. All that stuff will be put into the same string. Then we're saying grab that string and using the DOM's inner HTML method, write it to our ID of Part01, which was that paragraph. So the only thing to do yet is to set program load. We'll do that in just a minute. Yes.
I think at the top, process entry, you have a issue
what?
On valid FM name, and at the bottom you call it, in the if statement, it's not.
That should be an F. Everybody see that? This should be a capital F. This is, and this should be a capital L. You have to either change those two or you have to change those two. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'd like to say, yeah, I left that in there so you'd find that so you'd have to debug it, but I just screwed up. So make sure that if that's valid F name like this, that it's valid F name like this. If that's valid L name, make sure that's valid L name. Valid height should be correct. Thank you. And valid weight should be correct. So thank you for seeing that. All right. So this was, does everybody have that routine? Yes? Okay. So now all that's left is the program load. We're going to have another, let me hit enter a few times here so I can move this up. This is small, so I should be able to make this nice and big. All right. Need our semicolon at the end. And all right, as far as I know, that's everything. Remember what this is doing right here. This is not calling the functions. What don't we have at the end of each one of these three? Parentheses. If we did, we'd be calling the functions. This is saying when you click the end, whatever the button is with the ID of end, call that function. Whenever you click the ID with the button with an ID of reset, call that function. Whenever you click the button with an ID of calculate, call that function. Yes. Thank you. Now, I don't know if this works because I don't know if I made any mistakes typing. It's quite possible that I did. So let me save this. I'll come right back to the program, but let me go in and run it. All right, click calculate. Nothing happened. What do I do right away then? I hit the F12 key, and not there. I go over to console, and well, it's showing me right now that I don't have any errors, but there's something that has to be hosed in there, right? Because calculate didn't do anything. I always look at it this way. If I write a program that's that big, all right, let's see if I do put stuff in here. What does it do? Well, it got rid of those, but there's a problem in here. How about reset? Reset works, except it doesn't give me those back. End program, well, that isn't bad. It's given me some stuff in here. I don't know where I got that from. All right. But I've got some errors in here someplace. I think everybody'd agree with that. All right. So I'm just going to have to go back and start looking through the program myself. If I find out what those errors are, I'll be more than happy to share them with you. All right? But what I like is if you want to get either a 70 if you got below 50, all right, or half the points back you lost if you lost points. So if you got a 90, it would go up to a 95, but it has to work, which means you're going to have to do some debugging. All right, and if I don't get anything back from you, it's fine. All right, so let's say Matthew got an 88. He's like, I got it, but I'm cool with the 88. Then don't turn it back in. That's okay. But if he did type it all in and it works and he types it back in, he goes up to a 94. All right. This is pretty much, I think at least, going to be a one-time shot. Because when you do the next test, please listen to this. When you do the test on chapter 12 for jQuery, you have two files open. This one and the MPG we're going to do as jQuery next, a little later this week. If you have those two files open, it should be bing, 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 and you should be able to do it with very little trouble. All right. Now that's easy for you to say, Jeff. Yeah, it is. Yes.
Is there any way you can, if you're filming right now, you can scroll through the whole code?
Sure.
Copy the line?
That's fine. That's a fair thing to ask. All right. I don't think we have to do this, do we? Just start it here. All right. So here was what we did. In fact, I'll try to make it a little bigger. That's what we did when we started. Again, any function that ends with a semicolon like this is an anonymous function. It's not named. All right, so that was our alias function. So rather than having to type in this all the time, we could just type in this. All right. Then we went to our reset function, which is all right here, where we reset all 6 of the text boxes. These 2 text boxes are set in the program. These 4 text boxes are set by the user. Does that make sense? So those are input text boxes. These are calculated text boxes. You could have made a case. Please look up on the screen here. You could have made a case and said, hey, when you did that, why didn't you make those labels? All right. I did make them text boxes, but if you look, they're gray because if you look, wherever they are in here, so it says disabled. Since it says disabled, you can't change their value. You can't click in that box, give it the focus, and change its value. All right. This just reset all 4 of those asterisks, and this set the cursor to that right there. Is that long enough? Like I said, you're able to literally pause it then when you get to all these parts of the code.
Yeah, I just noticed that it's supposed to be sibling.
You're right. Everybody see that? That might be why it's not working. That should be sibling. There is no such thing as a sibling, as far as I know, so thank you for finding that. All right. And then we came through and we did our process, which was right here. This set up all of our variables. So the first 4 lines that you see got the values from our 4 different input boxes, those text boxes. The next 4 lines that you see there of code set up a flag for each one of those boxes. All right. Then we had the 2 calculated values, the BMI and the BMI status. Then we called the 4 validation functions. Then we checked to see if each validation function returned true. If they did, then we called calculate BMI, passing the height and the weight. Took that BMI that we calculated and changed it to 2 decimal places. Called calculate BMI status, which needed the BMI. Then this is setting those 2 disabled text boxes. Does that make sense? All right, then we validated the first name. That's right here. I told you there were two ways of doing it. I did it in what I thought was the cleaner way, bless you, of doing it. That is having a local variable called retval that I initially set to true, and if I found out my validation failed, I set it to false. Then there's only one return statement. All right, that was one return retval that was at the very bottom of my function. All right, that function right there was identical to this function here, except instead of saying fname up here like we did, we said lname down here. So we had to change lname here and here and here and here. And nobody caught that. There's sibling, there's sibling, there's sibling. I guess they are correct. There's sibling. Okay, good. Any questions on the first name or last name validations? All right. Then we did the height. Had to make that one smaller to get the whole thing in here. That's sibling, that's sibling, that's sibling. So that should be okay. So this was validate height, where we first checked for is not a number. And we also checked to see if it was less than the minimum or greater than the maximum. All right. If it was less than, we gave it a if it was not numeric, we gave it a non-numeric input message. If it was out of range, we gave it an out of range message. And again, I've said this to you before. I don't think this is funny. You can't account for human stupidity. So all you can do is tell them they made an error and tell them what the error was. If they refuse to fix it, it ain't your problem. All right, there comes a time when you have to basically say, hey, you know, I have to put some faith in the fact that the person running this knew what the hell they were doing. All right. Then we did the validate weight, which was exactly the same as validate height, except again we changed the H in height to a W in weight, and we changed our messages from weight must be between, from height must be between to weight must be between. Again, a fast way to find out. I want to make sure these are all H's for height. I can double click on it, and everywhere I can check. I want to make sure I've got min height and max height in those three places. Then I can do the same thing for weight. And for min weight, 3 places, and for max weight, 3 places. All right? All that makes sense? Then we came down, just did this, and figured out we actually calculated our BMI. Make that a little bigger. And again, as I said here, the math.pow H2, that you see right there in gray, that's the same as saying this. The first way is considered the professional way of saying it. The second way is considered the more amateurish way of saying it. Either one works. All right. Since we figured out the BMI, we could also compare it to whatever our smallest BMI was. And if you look, when we started, notice when we started, I made smallest BMI 99. If you have a BMI of 99, this is not a joke, you're dead. All right? And I made the largest -1. I did that to make sure that the first time I did a BMI, it would set smallest BMI and largest to the first one I calculated. Does that make sense? That is a way of doing it. I'm not saying that's the best way. I'm sure there's other ways of doing it. To me, that just made a lot of sense to do it that way. All right. Questions on that routine? Then then we did the status. I'll make that small again, sorry. That's here. So we created a local variable called str. If the BMI was less than 18.5, we set str to underweight and added 1 to our underweight counter. If it was less than 25, we said it was optimal weight, and we added to our optimal weight counter. Otherwise, if it was less than 30, we set it to overweight. We added to our overweight counter. Finally, it was greater than or equal to 30, so he made them obese. Please look up on the screen because this is a screw up on my part. I'm not changing it. But just so you know, because Colin was good enough to catch that other one before, what I really should have done here, notice that W is uppercase. I should have been consistent and made that lowercase. I should have done that. All right, you can leave it the way it is or you can change it. Just be consistent. That's all. So what I'm saying is I should have come in here double clicked on this, Control C, Control H, and then change that to total optimal weight with a little w. Oops. And that should change it in all the places. Place all. Change it in 3 occurrences. All right, so that should change it. Now, if you don't want to do that, then don't do that. But make sure that it's the same in both. All right, so now I've got the W in weight is little in each case. I don't have time when I grade yours to see if you did that or didn't do that. If it works, that's what I care about. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes.
Can you go back up to the BMI tab?
How do you change all the
How did I change them all? I just grabbed the, I'll go right back there, Chris. But I double clicked on it, which made it active. Then I did a Control H. This only will work if you're inside of Notepad++. And that brings up the replace, the find and replace with. And then I click the replace all button. If you're not sure, you can just click find next and then just keep doing replace too. If you do a replace all, let's just say I had done this. I'm not going to hit enter, but I'd done this. If I click replace all now, it's going to change every one of them. And I can't do a Control Z to change it back. That won't work. All right. And then finally, we came in and we displayed our totals. So I created a big string and then just said para inner HTML equals that big string that's right there. We were supposed to print out our total underweight, our total optimal weight, our total overweight, our total obese, plus the smallest BMI and the largest. And both of those I went and changed so they were 2 decimal places. All right. Then I did the inner HTML. And then finally, we did our program load, which was right here, which associated the 3 buttons. It says when we click on those buttons, call the associated function. And then finally, set the focus to the first name. Any questions or anybody need anything repeated? Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a save all on here. I'm going to go back to my index, see if that fixed it. I don't know if it did or not. Click calculate. Nope, there's still a problem. If I find out what that error was, I'll let you know. I don't mind doing that. But I'm going to look through it right now to try to find out what the error was. All right. All right. Well, and if you did it exactly like I did it, you probably would. Everybody would probably have that same error. All right. Let's see if I do this. So reset removes everything. That's good. End program is giving me some stuff, and that's actually working because that's what we set those to at the beginning. So all that's working. Now the funny thing is, notice I'm not getting anything, right? But when I click End Program, it changed that value. So something is getting hosed in there. So it's got to be either in my calculation for my BMI or where I'm printing out the BMI. That's the first place I'm going to look. All right? weight divided by this times, I thought that was correct. I thought that was the formula that I gave you up above. I'll double check. Weight, height times 703. Thought that's what I...
Return BMI or anything?
Are we not?
Can you calculate that?
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be good. How about return BMI here? All right, on the bottom of your calculate BMI function, put a return BMI down there. All right, I've saved it. Let's try to run it again. But I got to run it from the HTML file. I'll go back to it in just a second. Well, that's not a correct, I wish that was my BMI. All right, instead of like 39.76. So something screwed in there. That's fine. And it's not giving me my status. But it's giving me a value. And when I end the program, it's got that value. All right, so that says there's probably a problem with that formula. What it was somebody yelled it out, I don't know, but on the bottom here, to return the BMI. And technically, all right, do we have to return the BMI? Here's the answer. No. Why? Look on the screen, please. We already made BMI a variable up above, I think. There's our variable BMI. All right. When we call the routine to calculate it, we passed in the height and the weight, but we're saying whatever you return. So I don't need a return statement in there. I can put one in. I can do it like that. There's nothing wrong with doing it like that. But I could just say right here, BMI is equal to this. And, all right, I don't like that. I'm gonna do it like this. I could be wrong with what I just told you. So it's weight divided by this. And I think let's try this and see if that's what screwed it up. I'm trying to get the right BMI, so that's what I'm checking on right now. So I'm going to run that again. It's still wrong. It's giving me 9.76, which is a weird number even. Everybody see this? It's there. It seemed to work. The reset is working completely. That's good. All right. The largest look correct. I'm still trying to figure out where it's getting that 9.76 from. And my guess is it's using some default values to do that. So something is hosed in here.
Doesn't the smallest BMI do the negative 1 and the largest negative?
No, because if the smallest was -1, that -1 would be the smallest. All right? So I still think this is somehow screwed up. Squared times 703. I'm going to grab this, which has got the formula in there, and I'm going to look at that in just a second. So I'm going to copy that down here. All right, so it's weight divided by math.pow, which is height times 703. That looks correct to me. All right, so you know what I'm going to do? Take a look, please, on the screen here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say alert BMI equals, and I'm going to print out the BMI. That should work just fine. See, 976, that's wrong. I wish that was right, but it's wrong. So that formula that's in here is screwed up. What is it?
I don't know if this is it, but I have the same formula, but I don't have a parentheses in
Here?
front of math. Yeah.
Okay,
And then one less on the end.
let's try that one then. All right. No. I think you're right.
I have another set that goes around the entire thing. Give me a second.
So you've got one here and one here. All right. My guess is I'm going to get the same. Is yours working? All right. Well, mine's not. I'm not sure exactly what the correct number should be, but it should be 30 something.
Yeah, I'm getting 33 on mine.
And you're getting it with yours too. All right. Well, again, if somebody's going to be screwed up, I'd rather have it be mine than yours. Wonder if I do this.
The numbers
Oops.
in capital.
Making another one was 7-3.
Well, let me check some first. H and W for height and weight. Am I passing them in as H and W? You know, in that order, in other words. Height and weight. So that should be correct. They have been set. There's height, there's weight, so those should be correct. That is really a weird number to be getting for that. It's also not calling my status. It all looks correct to me. But it's already screwed up here. Ooh, see that? That would probably do that and give me that kind of a number. So what is screwed up in here? Whoops. H, W, height, weight. Height. There, see that? Look, that's what's screwing my whole program up. Weight, I didn't change that to a W. So if you followed mine, neither did you. Make that a W. Well, that was a great debugging exercise anyway. All right, that's good. All right, that's the right BMI. All right, my status still isn't coming up, but that's good. That's correct now. So if I go in there and change this to 145, all right, yeah, that looks about right. And if I make that 100, I'm trying to get one of each one. And if I do that, make it 200, and I click End Program, one of each. It's got that's all being done. For some reason, my status isn't coming up. That's fine. I'll look at that next. All right, I'm going to close some of these because I got way too many of them open. All right, so let's look at that. First thing I want to do is I want to come back into here and remove those alerts because I know that part works. Right. And I've got to go to my status, str, 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 return str, calculate BMI status with a BMI. BMI status equals calculate BMI status with BMI, BMI status, BMI status, BMI status. That all looks correct. And again, you do a lot of this as a programmer. I'm going to go down to here now. Before I return this, oh, you know what? No, it's not the status. Good, it's str. I'm going to say don't use that word for yours. So alert the status is. So let's see if at least the status is being calculated correctly. It is. It's just not printing. Okay, so I'll have to figure that one out.
You need to add the string value to the status ID.
Pardon me, to here?
The element status.
Where are you talking about? In here?
In the HTML.
In the HTML.
There's the status input box is a string length being sent to that.
Well, it's got an ID of status here, so that should be being done right here. Was it called BMI status? That's a good question. Everybody see that? There's the other error. All right. What did I call the BMI status in here? I just called it status. What did I call it here? BMI status. So that's got to be tried status. Oh, not statsu. Status. Or I have to change the other one. Good catch. All right. Now let's try it. I want to remove that. There it is. Now that was the only one. Let's just do one more. All right, so I should have one of 30 something and one of 13.56, and the other two should be empty. So it all works. Thank you for catching that. Yes, you can.
Are you still recording?
Yes, I am. Yep, and I'm up to an hour and 10 minutes, so I can't record much longer because when it gets over about a minute, hour and 15, it goes to hell. When you come in there and you try to produce it, it comes back and it says this is too big to be produced. Formula you wanted, right? And notice now it doesn't have, in fact, some of these parens are probably extraneous. You really don't need them. All right. And I think there's still an alert in here. I don't want that in there when it runs. All right. Any other questions? Hopefully you all got it to work. Took longer than I thought. Was this worthwhile? Are you going to understand this now? The only thing that we're going to change on chapter 12 for the test is rather than using the JavaScript specific statements, we're going to use jQuery specific statements. All right? And we're going to, on either Thursday or Friday, we are going to redo, I've already got it up here, in fact, I'm not going to go through it now, but we're going to do stuff that looks like this. Look familiar? Except now we say document.ready, because that's the way that you do it when you're working inside of jQuery. And some of these are going to look like this. Okay? It's very similar because jQuery is a JavaScript library. All right? I better stop.